Adriano here. How can I help you?
Hi, Adriano. This is Ralph Anderson with My Review Help. How you doing today?
Hey, not too bad, Ralph. You?
I'm doing pretty good. This is Adriano. He's with a company that manufactures screens for the timber industry, and they have some other type of business, but that's their bread and butter. Manufacturing screens, selling screens, parts to go with the screens for the timber industry again. To go into this, we've got several different categories we're going to look at. The discovery, what made you decide to either do email marketing or pick Extra Contact as your supplier. The solution, what you came up with for a solution to how to do your email marketing. We're going to talk about the results a little bit and the engagement, just basically how the demeanor was and how it was working with Extra Contact. So if we start with discovery and go to the motivation part of it, we want to talk a little bit about what made you decide to do email marketing. Was it because you needed to stay connected with your present customers? You need to take some of your prospects that you have that haven't converted. You just want to educate people, or you want to get new leads? What would you say the biggest reason was why you wanted to get into email marketing?
I'd say the biggest reason was to stay in contact with current customers. It's such a large geographic territory, and it touches on so many different industries that I find that maybe most guys in my position find this too, is that you're constantly saying the same things to the same guys over and over and over again. And it's having a newsletter where you can send out, maintenance tips or safety tips or industry news or best practices, and just having it come out in a newsletter and having all the little PDF forms or videos right there for a customer to see. I think that's way more effective than standing in a sawmill that's, with earplugs talking to a guy about, maintenance best practices. And that's usually how it ends up happening. So I just thought that by doing that, it probably is the best way to convey this type of information.
Okay.
And as on top of that, it's obviously making the company that I work for look like more of a leader in the industry, and I thought it was a nice thing to do.
Okay, great. All right. If we go back and we talk about selection, who contacted who? Did they do some type of marketing to reach out to you, or did you talk to them originally?
I knew of Extra Contact for a few years before I reached out to them. And one of the ways I knew them was I worked with the owner of Extra Contact at a previous job. And I knew that, when I joined the company that I'm with now, it was something that I needed to approach my boss a few years into being with them. It wasn't something that I wanted to introduce right from day one. So I needed to prove myself and prove that this was a model that would work. And so I reached out to Extra Contact when I was ready.
Okay, great. The deciding factors, what made you decide to go with Extra Contact? Was their experience, their knowledge, their track record, their attitude? What things kind of stuck out with you?
Yeah, it was kind of all of those things. Obviously, there was a personal relationship there. I did, a little bit of market research on my own to see, who was doing this type of thing. And, when there's a personal relationship there and the people that you're talking to are very knowledgeable about, this type of media, it made the decision quite easy.
If we talk about their experience, their past experience, do you feel like they knew your industry at all when they first get into it, or are they kind of learning as they go along here?
I think I don't think they knew much about the industry that I was in. I think they know what customers in my industry, the type of time they have available, and what sort of material they would probably like to see, so they could advise me on that sort of level. But to say that they were, well informed about my particular industry or the equipment that I sell, I would say no. But I didn't think that was important. I think what was, that's what I would bring to the table. What I needed their help with was, basically how to lay out a properly put together newsletter. And remember, they sent me many examples of newsletters that they're currently sending to other customers and other industries, so I could get some ideas and see what other guys are doing and see which ones would work for my industry and which ones wouldn't.
From what you're saying, it sounds to me like they're really up on the technology, and we didn't really talk about best practices. But yeah, when you're talking about layout and how they do things, it sounds to me like that was the main impetus for going with them. They had the technology, they had the knowledge. In fact, if we go back to knowledge here, the different email platforms like Constant Contact and all those, do you feel like they know those pretty well and were able to advise you on which one they wanted to use? Or do you even know which platform they're using?
I believe they're using Constant Contact. Actually, I know they are. But we didn't really get too involved into what platform was best for me. That's sort of a decision that they make on their behalf, right? I mean, they're the experts when it comes to determining what platform I should be using for my industry and for my contacts and the level of contact that I want to be making. So yeah, I mean, look, anytime you have a personal relationship with someone that you've worked with in the past and they're into an industry that you want to get involved in and they're in your backyard and when you talk to them, they're very knowledgeable. You know, we had personal sit-down coffee meetings over what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach my boss and how I wanted the newsletter to look. And I mean, on that level, it was a no-brainer. I mean, you just work with who you feel comfortable with.
Okay, so you didn't really discuss the platforms that they recommended one to you and you went with it basically.
Yeah, I mean, if they did, I probably don't remember.
Okay, no problem.
It wasn't a key decision maker for me.
Okay, I was trying to speed into the next line there because you kind of touched on it a little bit when we were talking about the major platforms, the design styles. It sounds like they did a good job of coming up with a style that you liked that would resonate well with your recipients and everything.
That's right.
Okay. You haven't done anything as far as grouping your prospects or anything. We haven't really talked about prospects at all. Your main goal was for staying connected. But have you done any type of grouping of your prospects or anything? Any attention to all the prospects as far as your email campaigns?
Yeah, I mean, I do a few things within the newsletter. I will have certain articles that you can, a one-click forward to a colleague or forward to a friend type thing. Obviously, anytime I meet a new customer, I immediately ask them if, adding them to my newsletter is something that they would be comfortable with. And it's about 100% approval rating on that one. So they basically say no problem. So I'm able to introduce new customers or new leads or new prospects immediately, even if they're not buying anything or they don't have any of our equipment today. They immediately start receiving the newsletter, which, just for your background, I only send out my newsletter once every 2 months. So I don't inundate somebody's mailbox with this type of information. It's fairly spread out and nicely timed, so it doesn't seem like you're overwhelming guys with this type of information. But yeah, I mean, I've also done draws or contests where, if an existing contact signs up one of their friends or colleagues, they get entered into a draw, that sort of thing.
Okay, great. But at this point, we're still trying to decide why you picked these people.
I knew Dave from a previous company. And so, I didn't go into a huge amount of research and searching out other mailing companies. And I basically went to who I knew and who I felt comfortable working with. I really didn't do any of that research, right? I mean, why would I? I went to the guys that I felt comfortable with. Before I gave them any money, I was able to see a draft. I was able to see other examples of, what they're doing with other customers, and the decision is made and you go ahead with it. I mean, that's all I'm trying to get across is sometimes a lot of the background information as to how I chose them, what sort of format are they using. It's nothing I really looked into too heavily.
Okay, so
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. So if we're to tie this to our nice little categories that we got here, basically what made you choose them would have probably had something to do with their attitude. They seemed to have enough knowledge that you thought they could do the job. They were competent. That's probably the big thing. Did they have a lot of experience when you started with them?
Oh, sure. I mean, I didn't ask them how many companies they're currently working with. I didn't ask them, how many customers they have. I mean, what they did do for me was they sent me, we're going back 3 or 4 years now, right?
Sure.
Where they sent me, 10 different newsletters that current customers are currently sending out to their user base. So I was able to see that they had a wide range of customers, from industrial products to real estate agents to home fitness people. So you got a sense that, they're looking at all different industries, all different customer bases, and based on that, you intuitively say, okay, yeah, they're obviously doing this with other people. I like what I see, what they're doing with other people. Now I just need to try to tailor it to my industry.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up this selection and get into solutions. So if we go into strategies.
New leads, staying connected, converting current prospects to customers, segment campaigns. I'd say the one that was probably the most on my mind was staying connected.
Because that was your motivation.
That was my motivation. Yeah, it was to improve our, brand leadership, look more like a leader, educate, inform my customers rather than, doing it, face to face every time. Imagine I send out over 500 of these every 2 months. So that's effectively like making 250 sales calls every month. And because it's such a large geographical territory, it's just very cost effective to do it that way.
Sure.
And so it makes a lot of sense. To give you some perspective, my territory, sometimes you drive 4 or 5 hours in between customers. So,
yeah. And
that's not to say that when you arrive that they're in any mindset to talk to you.
Right.
I mean, we all know how it is. I mean, you arrive at a mill or a plant or a customer's office, and you don't know how their day is going. You don't know what's happened before you arrived, what fires they're trying to put out.
Exactly.
And
you arrived just in time for an emergency.
That's right. So it's ideal to send this type of information. The top of mind stuff, the keeping in touch. Hey, we're here. If you need us, call us type sales call. It's ideal to send it in an email format as long as it's professionally done and it's well done, and people have the option to opt out on a one-click basis, which is what this program does.
Okay, great. If we go to tactics, any type of autoresponder, and an autoresponder is a tool that email marketers use so that if somebody were to go to your web page from your email, maybe they go to your web page or a landing page and they click on a link, say, to get some type of a white paper or something, or sign up for a little mini course or anything like that. What the autoresponder will do is it'll keep track of a specific set of email messages that'll send out in a certain order to the recipient to kind of nurture them along. Are you doing anything like that at this point?
No, I would say I probably use less than 50% personally. I probably use less than 50% of the capabilities of a program like this. I'm not running a blog, for example. And that's just based on the guys that I'm sending this to, the guys and girls that are receiving my newsletter, right?
Sure.
A lot of my customers probably don't receive anything like this from any of their other suppliers. They certainly don't receive anything like this from any of my competitors. So I'm already sort of 2 or 3 steps ahead of what anybody else is doing in this industry.
Okay.
So I try to limit the amount of technical stuff I don't run a Facebook page. I don't run a Twitter account. I don't, run a blog, like I said. So a lot of this other features that the program probably offers and are valuable to other industries, I don't really get too involved in.
Okay. Landing pages. I believe you got one landing page that I saw that had a bunch of contact information. If you click on I believe it's the icons at the top of your newsletter, you end up going to this one landing page. Any other type of landing pages? And did David do anything to help come up with new landing pages or suggest new landing pages or anything like that?
We may have talked about it at once or twice. It may have, I don't recall getting into it too heavily. Again, my newsletter is probably a little bit low tech, when it comes to that sort of thing. I'm just basically trying to drive people to our website, our homepage, and obviously I get a record of that. But when we get into stuff like autoresponders and landing pages, and I think there's another one called refurbishing that you have on your list here. I don't know what else to tell you. We don't get involved. I don't personally take the time to get involved in that kind of stuff.
Okay, no problem. Do you feel like Extra Contact would have had the capabilities to refurbish your website if you needed it? Could they have helped you with refurbishing?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the offer's been made a couple of times, and I just don't make the decision to go ahead with that or not. But I'm confident they have the ability to do that.
Okay. Construction. Any problems as far as getting the copy put together? The back and forth, they come up with a campaign for you. Nah, that's not really what you're wanting to do. You keep having to go back and forth and change things. Any issue like that?
Not really, because I basically send them 95% of the content that I'd want to appear in the next newsletter. So where they help me and where the back and forth happens is in the layout and the appearance of this type of font, or this picture's too large, or we need to fill in this space at the bottom, because when you send content, you can't predetermine how it's going to look when it's all laid out. You say, okay, well, actually, newsletter in its simplest form looks too long, so I want to shorten it up. So let's remove that article and just tighten it up a little bit so that when a customer receives it, it doesn't seem like a real long thing to get through. So on that level, I don't really have issues with campaigns disagreeing with what they're suggesting, because I'm the one who determines what goes out. But when it comes to the layout and the correspondence and the timely responses and the accuracy of what they send, there's no problems there at all.
Okay. Yeah, with you pretty much presenting the information, there's not a whole lot of area for misunderstandings there.
Correct.
Okay. The campaigns themselves. Basically, the strategies, how they sequence them now. You're handling the sequencing once every 2 months, it sounds like, and it sounds like that's probably appropriate for your audience that you have there. Addressing your objectives was basically staying connected. Do they roll out on time? Something that we're not really talking about here yet, and something I want to comment on, is your banner on your newsletter. And that's a nice little banner across the top there. Did they help you with that?
They did. When I first started the newsletter, I wanted to make the banner and the colors and everything like that match our website, so that there was a consistent message. So guys would receive their initial newsletter and they would immediately attribute it to BM&M. This is an official BM&M newsletter. That sort of thinking. But as time went on, I wanted to improve on that. And so I asked Dave and the guys at Extra Contact to come up with a design, and I left it basically in their hands. And believe it or not, the one that I use is the one that they sent to me first. So there was no back and forth, or I don't like this, and this is the third or fourth draft, or I don't know why they used this image and they didn't use the other. Basically, I accepted the first draft that they did because it was that good. So that's the one I use for my newsletter now, and I hope one day that our website starts to reflect my newsletter a little bit more. Okay,
so you would say that they're very competent as far as producing graphics for your newsletters if you need them to.
Yeah. Yeah, the people that I work with are very, very talented when it comes to graphic design and understanding that side of the business. So no issues there at all.
Okay. So if you can't come up with your own graphics, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, I know some people, this is the graphics that I want, but if you're not that type of person that gets your own graphics and needs somebody to help you, they're very competent in that area.
Yep.
Results. Okay, the first category we've got here is success. I'm going to brush right through new leads because let's talk about it anyway. Did you get new leads, and if so, do you know where they came from? In other words, did they come from
Sure.
sharing your email or coming to a landing page, or you know how that you got them?
I don't overthink new leads too much, right? You know, whenever I do receive a call or an email or a response to something, you know, if I don't immediately recognize where it's coming from, I ask. And some guys have said their friend or their colleague sent me a copy of the newsletter and they thought that this application might work, and the rest, you know, kind of takes off from there. So yeah, I mean, I do receive new leads, but the email is basically sent to an existing audience. So
Right.
You're not propositioning people to sign up and all this sort of thing. I want to respect people's mailbox and not, you know, be sending out sign-up sheets and all this sort of thing. It's more of a one-on-one thing until they get signed up, and then it's up to them if they'd like to continue.
Okay. All right, great. Now this is not new leads, these are your recipients that you're sending to. Did the emails generate any conversations? And the big difference between, did they just happen to call you because they needed a part? Did they call you specifically because of your email?
Of course. Yeah.
Do you feel like just sending these emails out did spur some extra conversations from people?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the reason why we continue to do it. And that's the reason why we continue to pay for the service every year, is because it does generate leads. Not new customers that I've never heard of before. That's not really its strength, but project leads. So existing customers that have a new project in the plant that they've been thinking about, and now they want to talk to me about it.
Okay.
So, you know, I flatter my email address all over that newsletter. So when somebody clicks on it, the title of the email is my newsletter, right? So most customers in my industry don't go to the effort to change the title. They just send it. And so I immediately know that they've clicked on my email from my newsletter. So I can see, okay, he's responding to my newsletter versus just sending a new email out of the blue. So that's one little trick that I can see that someone's responded directly from my newsletter.
Would you say that email is primarily the largest source of your conversations? Clicking on the link versus calling you or doing a social media type thing, going to your Facebook page or something?
Yeah, I would say it's 50-50 with phone calls.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, when a customer's reaching out to me, it's either a phone call or an email.
Great.
And most sales and most projects have to be dealt with face to face. So this gives people a way to reach out to me, another easy way to reach out to me, to then have me visit their plant and talk about what they want to do.
All right, great. New business. You're not trying to get new clients, so let's talk about returning clients. They buy in screens that they bought in the past that have worn out. I don't know how they wore out, something like that, something that they add on to existing parts. They got to purchase something different. We don't mention parts here, but I guess we could add parts to that list. What would you say most of your returning clients that you haven't seen for a while are coming back for based on these newsletters?
It's a tough question to answer. I guess it's everything.
Okay.
Yeah, from, you know, replacing aging equipment to needing spare parts to looking at a new application or adding capacity or adding, improving efficiency from existing equipment. So it's everything under the sun. Everything that we do, guys are contacting me for it.
All right, great. Timing. Meeting schedules. Now, this isn't a tough schedule. It's once every 2 months. Any issues with schedules, things going out late, maybe developing the campaign for you after you submit your information, getting the graphics, whatever it is, and coming back to you? Are they on top of their schedules?
Yeah, no, I've never had a problem on that area. Like I said, if anything's ever gone out late, it was my fault. It's just that I didn't get them the information in a timely way. And, we said, okay, let's not worry about this Tuesday. Let's send out next Tuesday, that sort of thing. So it's a fairly relaxed, sort of schedule that I run. They would prefer that I send it out every first Tuesday of every second month at a certain time that they think is the best time to send it out, or Thursday or Wednesday, whatever the day turns out to be. But, I've never had a problem with their response level.
Okay, so they are very proactive, it sounds like, in suggesting correct times to send it. So they've got some knowledge, I guess, in that area as far as when emails should go out, what time of the day, what day of the week, et cetera, and they're very proactive as far as recommending those type of things to you.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, even for yourself, if you came into the office after a weekend and Monday morning my newsletter was sitting on your inbox, it would probably have a lower rate of open or reading percentage than if it went, I believe it's like Wednesday, by 10 a.m. or something like that, because most people are deleting junk mail on Monday morning. Maybe there's a more pressing issue that somebody's looking at or being asked to look at. So that, it only makes sense that you wouldn't send it out Sunday night or first thing Monday morning if you actually want guys to take the time to look at it and read it. But that's the knowledge that that Extra Contact has. That's the stuff that they help me out with. Okay,
great. Cost, any type of unexpected charges that you got, or did the prices go up that you didn't expect? If so, did they give you any type of cost-saving alternatives or some way to help your budget?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into actual numbers, but there's only two costs. There's one cost is the yearly fee to do the bi-monthly newsletter, and then there's the mailbox or the user mailbox management fee, which is a monthly fee. And that's to help manage your user list and update it and remove contacts that have opted out, that sort of thing. So there's no real area for surprise charges or overcharges or a bill that you didn't expect to see. I don't even know, but I don't even think the price has gone up over the last 2 or 3 years. I think they just invoiced me what they did the year prior. So I don't pay too much attention to that, but it seems pricing is not an issue. Where they did help me out with cost was because I'm only sending it out every second month, obviously the cost comes down versus sending it out every month.
Sure.
That's where they were able to help me and say, okay, we know what you're trying to do here, we get it. And so what we would say is, okay, this would be the cost to send it out every second month versus, a true cost of 12 months a year.
All right, great. Traffic. Getting more traffic to your website. We talked about this a little bit, about email shares, how you're getting your traffic. We're kind of repeating ourselves here a little bit. I'm not sure how we got to this point, but I think what you said is that, yes, you don't necessarily have figures, but you are seeing an actual increase in your traffic. You're getting email responses. Okay, this is traffic to your website. So do you have knowledge about how people are getting to your website from email? Are they clicking your email links to go to your website? Are they going there from an email share? Are people clicking on your links from the share? Do you have knowledge about how you're getting traffic to your website based on this email campaign that you're doing?
Yeah, the program through Extra Contact, there's a report at the end of every newsletter campaign, and it tracks who clicked what, where, and when. So if I have links to my website, it actually tells me which individual contact clicked on what link to my website. And I know my company also tracks clicks to our website on a monthly basis. And there's usually a spike whenever my newsletter goes out because it's drawing people to the website that normally wouldn't have gone there for a brochure or a video or some more information. So yeah, it does tell you who's clicking on your website, and we can see that in our in-house tracking of our website that there is an increase when my newsletter goes out.
The engagement. This isn't really specific to email marketing at all. It's just doing business with them. How are they like doing business? Mm-hmm. Do they greet you with a smile, or do they nearly throw you out the door when they see you? That type of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean it's pretty obvious. If you wouldn't stay with a company that you're not happy with, right? So
sure.
I guess the best way to explain it is it's almost like working with a friend. It's not like working with a big corporate company where, you have to leave voicemails and it takes 3 days for them to get back to you. And, it's not like that at all. Okay. You literally pick up the phone. You can email them on midnight on a Friday and send them all the information. And 10 times out of 10, you'll get a, hey, thanks, Adriano. And we'll get started on this right away.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll even get a draft on the weekend, because they've decided to work on it that weekend so that you'll have it ready for Monday morning.
Okay.
So it's like working with a friend. It's not like working with, a Fortune 500 company where, you have to go through all these channels to make sure that you're talking to the right person and, now it's at this department, and it's nothing like that.
Okay. So if we get into specifics here, when we look at how attentive they are they good at remembering the little details of the conversation? And this has to do with, I guess, being a little proactive. When I mentioned custom solutions, they pick up something that you say and they go, oh, you know what, maybe a week later they go, oh, you know what, something you mentioned a week ago, we got a solution for that or an idea for that. Are they good about that sort of thing, remembering the little details?
Yeah, they're actually a lot better at it than I thought they would be, because I know they deal with so many other clients and so many other industries and so many other little details that when you speak to them about, hey, remember that little icon that I used to use for my lunch and learns, right? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I'll take care of it. They even down to the little details, they'll remember, and which is really, really nice and really, really helpful that you don't have to re-explain everything every time to them, right? So no, it's they're probably sometimes more in tune with what I'm trying to do than I am sometimes, right? They'll say, hey, remember we used to do this or that sort of thing. So they're very, very good at reminding you about stuff that you did before, or even giving you tips and saying, hey, case histories, videos, that sort of thing are getting great responses. You can see it in your numbers. Next month, let's try to do something again, very similar to that, right? Let's try to do another case history. Let's try to do more videos, and you'll get some really good responses from it. So no, it's really nice from that perspective.
Okay, great. Okay, the response. This is all regarding how quickly they get back. Mm-hmm. And you kind of, let me go back here for a second real quick. Yeah, we talk about phone calls and emails and returning them, replying to them. You kind of touched on that just a minute ago about how they're good about getting right back to you. But as far as answering your questions, were they able to answer any questions that you had? And I know you're kind of driving this a little bit from your end as far as what's going in there. But yeah. And this kind of goes back a little bit to the whole knowledge thing with the selection phase. Right. But I mean, did you feel like they answered your questions in a language that you could understand without giving a whole bunch of terms and stuff like that?
The technical answer, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's not like talking to your stockbroker, where he's using a bunch of large technical terms to the industry that make him sound smart and you not understand.
Right.
No, and like this is, like I said, the best way to explain it, I think, is just it's like talking to a friend. So they talk to you, on one-to-one level. They're not trying to, show how smart they are, and how smart you're not when it comes to this type of thing. It's completely helpful. It's completely clear. It's actually very, very easy to do.
Okay, great. Resolving issues. It didn't sound like you have a whole lot of issues that you've had to deal with, but any that you have had, what was the turnaround that you would say as far as resolving? And I realize that, as I say this, some of these may take longer to turn around, some issues. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like a proper amount of time was spent in turning around your different issues?
Yeah, it's very clear what the timeline's going to be. I mean, most of the time they're working on a deadline that they've set, right? So they say, okay, we need to get this out by Tuesday at 10 a.m. And so if I send them the information on Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, it's either sent back to me on the weekend or first thing Monday morning. So once you've got all of the information to them, the turnaround is like 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
Right? It's that quick. Now, if you send it to them a month in advance, sure, it's not a priority for them. They'll get to it in probably about 2 weeks' time, but that's reasonable because your newsletter isn't going out for another 2 weeks.
Right.
So you have plenty of time to. Now, I'm sure if I asked them to say, hey, I've sent it to you a month early, but I want to get this resolved by the end of the week, they'll do it. It's not a problem. So the turnaround time is a couple of days. Response time is, a phone call back and forth. It's, like I said, it's quite easy to do business with them.
Okay, great. Now we talked about returning phone calls. Basically, from what you said, it sounds like they're real quick to return a phone call. You're not waiting for them. You're not having to make multiple calls, wondering where they're at. None of those type of issues, it sounds like.
Yeah, you don't phone them and, hey, Dave's on vacation for 2 weeks, or Dave's in a meeting every time you phone. It's nothing like that, right? It's, you pick up the phone, you've got their home number, you've got their cell number, you've got their office number. You just basically pick up the phone, call them, and you either reach them right away or you leave a message and they get back to you within a couple of hours.
Okay.
At the most.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Emails, it's kind of the same thing. They get back to you quickly, or do they sit in their inbox for a day or two?
Emails are even quicker of a response than a phone call, I would say.
Okay.
Because it just pops right up on their screen, and they'll send you a quick email to say that they've received it. Hey, thanks for sending this through. We received it. We'll get on it. This is when we're planning on sending it out. Do you have any problems with that? So no, they're completely professional on that side of it. And,
okay.
And there's no issues with responsiveness.
Okay, great. Organized. We kind of touched on this a little bit back and forth. It sounds like from what you said before, they do give you deliverable dates for their action items. Do you get a nice list from them of, okay, here's what we're going to do in the next month? And I know this is kind of low key, so it's not as complicated as maybe some other ones, but do you still get a list of, okay, this month we're going to do this, we're going to do, put together a campaign, we're going to send it out, or, whatever. Do you get any type of let's call it an organized itinerary or anything like that?
For my audience, not so much, no. But that's because I don't require it, not because they don't do it or can't do it, I would say. I mostly get reminders, hey, Adriano, it's, almost the end of the month, if you have your information, feel free to send it through, that sort of thing. Or if there is a reminder, or a reminder of the action item that we needed to do, or just a reminder of, the success of the last couple of newsletters, what really drove traffic, what got a lot of clicks and opens, and reminder to, maybe try to incorporate those in the next newsletter. That sort of thing. It's not so much a regimented, agenda or itinerary of stuff with deadlines that I need to achieve. I kind of drive that myself, and I keep a mental note of it myself.
Okay. If we were to say something good or bad, indifferent, whatever, about their organization skills, the fact that they're able to keep sending you reminders at their proper time sounds like they pretty much got their act together. They know when they're supposed to be doing things and when they need to be done. The lead time, as far as alerting you, all that sort of thing. That sounds like organization to me.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of take it for granted, I think, the fact that they're on top of things. A lot of times you just take it for granted. I mean, I can't recall ever forgetting to send them information for a newsletter and them forgetting to say, hey, this is the month you missed this month. What happened? That never happens, right? It's even if I forget that, because sometimes you do it every second month, you forget, did I send it last month or did I send it this month? That sort of thing. They're on top of it. It's not like they say, hey, if he doesn't send it to us, great. We less work for us, right? It's not that kind of attitude, right? It's, hey, did you send, have you sent the information? Will you send us the information? Because, this is the month that we're going to send it out, right? So they're actually looking forward to seeing what you're sending them.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I got to give them an extra little mark for being able to send out those reminders every other month rather than a regimen. Okay, it's the 20th. I always send out this reminder to Adriano. They got to remember it's every other month they're doing. So I got to give them, like I say, an extra little mark for their organization in that area.
Yeah, everybody has a personalized schedule, I guess, and they seem to be on top of everything.
Okay. Carrying immediate recognition when calling. I always think of the old Cheers sitcom way back in the 80s when part of the jingle was everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
When they call you, they know who you are. It's you're not a stranger every time you call. You're not constantly getting voicemail. They know who you are. They remember personal information.
Yeah.
They remember who they are. They remember that your grandmother's sick and in the hospital, and they ask about her, that sort of thing. Remember acting on any customization. Yeah, this is what we call caring. It's more than just a business partner. You're an actual person at the other end. How are they? Of course, even being a friend is kind of a leading question, but how do you feel they are in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I speak to the same girl every time I phone, Crystal. She's the one who puts my newsletters together. She's the one who knows me, knows what I'm trying to do. I mean, Dave knows, is also in on those conversations. I copy him on everything that I send to Crystal, so he's fully aware of what I'm doing and what I'm sending and what I'm asking for. So it's not like you phone up an office and 1 month you get this designer and then the next month you get a different designer, and they're not in tune what you did last month, or they don't know what changes or fonts or colors you've changed, and it keeps fluctuating because there's no consistency there.
Right.
It's not anything like that. It's actually really nice in the sense that when you phone, you talk to the same person and they know exactly what you did last month. They know the little tweaks and changes that they've done, and they incorporate it on the next newsletter. So it takes a lot of that kind of stress away of trying to make sure that it's consistent, it's professional, that sort of thing. There's never any issues there. So on that level, it's nice. The second level is, I mean, I've invited them up for coffee, if they're ever in town, or they've invited me to their Christmas parties and that sort of thing. So it's, like I said, it's more dealing with a friend than it is with a business to business.
Sure. Okay, great. And that's the last one. At this point, Adriano, certainly on behalf of Extra Contact and My Review Help, we certainly want to thank you for participating and helping us out here. Appreciate all your patience.
Not a problem.
All right, you have a good day.
Very cool. Thanks, Ralph.
All right, thanks, Adriano.